Hi there, David Svodich and Shay Hata of the Buy Sell Love Chicago team. Happy January. Hope you're all keeping warm. Certainly things are hot and heated in the press right now with a lot of issues going on in real estate. And one of the big ones is coming up relates to school choice and whether, the testing schools are going to be continued and what sort of resources are going to be available. And it's putting things up a lot into the city. So Shay, what are you hearing about all this?
Yeah, I'm hearing that a lot of parents are very nervous because with school choice, what they're talking about doing is eliminating the option to apply. Like right now, you can apply to 20 different schools for the younger grades. They're talking about eliminating that entirely, so you would only go to your neighborhood school. In the past, people have liked the option of testing into selective enrollment, gifted programs, just applying to lots of different schools. So it's up in the air as to whether that's going to continue or whether that's going to go away, and your only option is going to be to go to your neighborhood school. Nobody knows at this point what is going to happen. If something like that changes, we think it's going to take a while. It's not going to be immediate, but I am starting to hear nervous people who are thinking about buying and are asking the question, should this change where I buy? And our answer is to some degree, yes. I think it's going to be more important than ever that you buy in a neighborhood school that you are very comfortable sending your child to in case the school choice program goes away. Because again, we don't know what is going to happen with it. So you need to make sure you're really comfortable with your neighborhood school. If you aren't familiar with what your neighborhood school is, or you don't know much about it, there are a lot of great resources. The first thing is that most of the schools do tours. So you can look on the Chicago CPS website, find out when the tour is for that school. You can go on a tour, you can meet the principal. That's a great way to get a good feeling for the school. Second is on the Chicago CPS website, they have statistics for each of the schools in terms of test scores and things like that. That's another great resource. There's also a woman named Grace who owns a company called Chicago GPS, and she is basically like the expert on the public school system in the Chicago area. You can do a consultation with her, and she can talk to you about the different neighborhood schools in depth. I did that when my husband and I were thinking about staying in the city before we decided to move out to the suburbs, and that was very, very helpful to understand more about the public schools. Also, Facebook groups, neighborhood Facebook groups are great resources for you to ask questions about particular schools if you're looking in a neighborhood and you don't know much about that school. We can give you a list of those. There's specific ones by neighborhood, like the Westtown group page. There's also moms groups in most of those neighborhoods. So if you're a mom, I can give you an additional list of those as well. Last resource that's really helpful to learn about schools is that David and I work with, hundreds of families every year. We have a lot of families in most of the schools. So if there's a neighborhood that you're looking at and you're just not very familiar with that school, let us know, because most likely we have a family that goes to that school that you can talk to and find out what that school's like, what that community is like, things like that. So the upshot is, don't panic, but make sure you are buying in a neighborhood school you are comfortable as a backup option should other options go away. David, I know one thing you and I have talked about is if we think that this is going to change where people buy. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it could, I'm totally, I think as people are really going to have to be sticking to their neighborhood school, that's definitely going to happen. And I think that's going to be in certain higher rated neighborhoods, you're going to see a little bit more pressure and demand, which has always gone up. I mean, we've always said along, even with the current system, always buy with a neighborhood school that you're comfortable with just in case. So the advice is the same. This is also not going to happen overnight. Do not panic. But this is a time to have to be asking the questions and looking a little bit deeper than we have in the past. And we're happy to help with that.
And I think one thing we're also getting asked from people is should they move to the suburbs because of this? It's putting some uncertainty in the Chicago public school system, and that's causing people who are thinking about buying or thinking about having kids to really look at potentially moving to the suburbs so they can just avoid the Chicago public school system while this is getting figured out. So I do think we're going to see a bump up in sales in the suburbs because of this potentially. So if you are thinking about moving to the suburbs, I would probably move sooner rather than later, and buy, just because we don't know if this goes into effect, what effect that could have on the suburbs and driving up prices. So you may get a better deal now than you could in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years if this goes into effect. So please feel free to reach out to us if you guys have questions. We're happy to answer any additional questions that you have. Again, David and Shay from the Buy Sell Love Chicago team. Thanks, everybody.